Before Instagram, before iCloud, before your phone had a camera, there was one company that owned the memory of the entire world. Kodak didn't just sell cameras. They sold the idea that your life was worth saving. And for nearly a century, the whole planet agreed. This is the story of how a company that literally invented the digital camera was destroyed by the digital camera. George Eastman founded Kodak in 1892 with a radical idea. Photography shouldn't just be for professionals. His slogan said it all. You press the button, we do the rest. It worked spectacularly. By 1976, Kodak held 90% of the US film market and 85% of camera sales. In the 1990s, it was the 5th most valuable brand on earth, ahead of Apple, ahead of Google, ahead of Nike. At its height, Kodak employed 145,000 people worldwide. The city of Rochester virtually ran on Kodak money. The word Kodak moment entered the English language. Think about that. A corporation so dominant that it became a metaphor for human emotion. This was not a company. This was a civilization. In 1975, a Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson built something that had never existed before. A camera with no film. It captured images digitally, stored on a cassette tape. It weighed 3.6 kilograms and took 23 seconds to save a single black and white photo. It was, without question, the future of photography. Kodak's leadership looked at the invention and said, "That's cute, keep it quiet." Their concern was logical, in the way that all catastrophically wrong decisions are logical. Film was their golden goose. Developing photos, selling chemicals, the whole ecosystem, it generated billions. Why would they torch it for a gadget that made film obsolete? They patented the digital camera and then buried it. For 15 years, Kodak sat on the invention of the century, afraid of their own future.
At the point when I looked at this, I looked at the device and I said, well, maybe if I was good to measure the imaging performance, I could try to build something that captured images. So maybe I could build a camera. And then from there it escalated to, wouldn't it be really neat to build a camera with all electronic, no moving parts whatsoever? And then because my experience was largely digital, I decided to take a completely digital approach to it. It avoided a lot of mechanical complexity, which I was incapable of dealing with. So I just basically had a white piece of paper and started to sketch out what this thing would have to be like. And then with the help of two enormously talented technicians that were working in the labs, there was named Jim Schickler and Bob Dieger, were two fellows, really experienced fellows, and they and I basically cleaned out a back lab and started to build our circuits and put together our camera and do our experiments one after the other as we put together the camera, until finally the camera and the corresponding playback system was operational. And it was after about a year's worth of work, as I remember, and it was we took our first picture in December of 1975.
By the late 1990s, digital photography wasn't coming. It was already here. And Kodak was caught completely flat-footed by technology they had invented. In 1997, Kodak's stock peaked at $94 per share. By 2012, it was trading at 36 cents. Between 1988 and 2012, Kodak cut its workforce from 145,000 to under 17,000. In January 2012, Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company didn't lose to a competitor with a better product. They lost to time, to change, to their own inability to let go of what had made them great. They knew the tsunami was coming. They built the wave machine, and then they stood on the beach and hoped for the best. Kodak's downfall wasn't a failure of intelligence. Their engineers were brilliant. It wasn't a failure of resources. They had billions. It was a failure of imagination. Specifically, the imagination to picture a world where their product no longer existed. The saddest part? Every photo you take today, every captured memory, every saved moment runs on principles that Kodak pioneered. They invented the Kodak moment. They just couldn't survive it.